Imagine you are dropped directly into the middle of Tokyo. Someone hands you this massive 500-page, densely packed textbook on Japanese grammar.
Oh man, that sounds overwhelming.
Right. And then they point to a stranger and just tell you to start speaking. I mean, if you are like most people, your heart rate instantly spikes.
Yeah, complete fog rolls over your brain.
Exactly. And you learn absolutely nothing. We spend so much time, obsessing over the content we want to learn, the thickest textbooks, the most advanced software, hoarding articles.
We really do.
But we completely ignore the biological reality of how a human brain actually absorbs new information.
Well, we treat adult learners like empty hard drives.
Yeah.
The assumption is that you just, drag and drop the files in there.
Just copy and paste.
Right. And suddenly you understand a new language, or you can instantly parse a complex financial model at work. But human cognition is highly dependent on the environment you create in your mind before you even look at the first piece of information.
The internal environment?
Exactly. If that internal environment is wrong, a 90% failure rate is practically guaranteed.
Today, we are looking at a source that holds the neurological secret to fixing that failure rate. And surprisingly, it is not some dense academic paper.
No.
It is actually an introductory English listening practice script. It is titled EP Boat 1. Hello, this is me. And it is designed for a beginner learner from Thailand named Yami.
And on the surface, it seems almost comically simple.
Yeah, a quick glance at the transcript reads like, well, basic survival vocabulary. You have simple greetings, the person saying their name, stating what country they're from.
It's the kind of material you would expect to see in a first-grade classroom.
But when you break down the sequence and the specific phrasing of this lesson, you uncover a masterclass in the psychology of learning.
It really is brilliant.
It is a carefully engineered blueprint for how any of us can successfully acquire a new, highly intimidating skill. So our mission for this deep dive is to deconstruct this seemingly simple beginner script to uncover that hidden architecture.
Because it applies to everything.
Absolutely. So for you listening, whether you are tackling a dense new coding language at work or just trying to wrap your head around a complicated political article, there is a profound mechanical lesson here in how to set your brain up to actually absorb the material. Okay, let's unpack this.
To really understand the architecture here, we have to look closely at the opening seconds of the script. Because before it introduces a single complex grammatical rule, before it even attempts to teach a verb conjugation, it focuses entirely on establishing a cognitive safe zone.
Right. The script opens with time-based greetings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Then it moves into very basic identity statements.
Like, my name is Yami.
Yeah, and I am Yami.
It immediately provides footing through high-frequency repetition.
Hello, hello, hi, hi.
It is establishing an auditory rhythm that requires zero complex processing.
Wait, hold on though. Right in that opening sequence, the script explicitly tells the learner something that sounds like, I don't know, a terrible instructional strategy. Well, it literally says, do not worry if you do not understand every word. You do not need to be perfect. Just listen, relax.
Yes.
If my swimming instructor tells me, hey, don't worry about the water, just focus on breathing, my brain is immediately going to fixate on the water.
That makes sense.
Doesn't pointing out the thing you aren't supposed to worry about actually trigger the exact panic you are trying to avoid?
What's fascinating here is the underlying neurology of an adult attempting a new skill.
Yeah.
When you face a massive new challenge, like a foreign language or a complex new software, your brain often perceives that high level of difficulty as a literal threat.
A threat, like physical danger.
Exactly. Your amygdala triggers the stress response.
Yeah.
Cortisol floods your system. And when that happens, your brain starts pulling metabolic resources away from your prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex, that's the working memory.
Yes, the area responsible for your working memory.
Huh.
You literally lose the physical biological capacity to store new information.
Oh, wow. So you are saying the anxiety doesn't just make learning unpleasant, it biologically prevents it from happening.
Precisely. By explicitly stating you do not need to be perfect and giving the instruction to just listen, the script is functioning as a biochemical intervention.
A biochemical intervention. That is a wild way to think about a grammar script.
But that is what it is doing. It is actively trying to disable that threat response. When a learner is panicked about catching every single syllable, their working memory buffer overloads within seconds.
Because they are trying to process too much data at once.
Right. So by removing the pressure of immediate mastery, the script keeps the metabolic resources in the prefrontal cortex. It allows the brain to remain open to mere exposure.
which is step one.
Exactly. Mere exposure is the required first step before comprehension can even begin.
That shifts the whole perspective on what a beginner lesson is supposed to achieve. I mean,
Mm.
the goal of the first 5 minutes isn't to teach vocabulary at all.
No, it's not.
The goal is to prevent an amygdala hijack. Okay, so once that neurological foundation of safety is established and the learner's working memory is actually online, the script starts turning the dial up. It introduces complexity, but it does it by pulling apart concepts that native speakers blend together effortlessly.
Right. The lesson carefully contrasts two highly specific phrases. It has the speaker say, "I am from Thailand," and then it immediately follows it with, "I live in Thailand."
Which feel almost identical.
They do, but it even pauses the narrative to explain the mechanical difference. It says, "I'm from Thailand," tells people where you come from. "I live in Thailand," tells people where you live now.
See, I am still a little skeptical of this approach.
Why is that?
Well, why spend precious cognitive bandwidth splitting hairs over from versus live? If someone asks me where I am from and I say Chicago, it generally implies my current identity. Adding all this conceptual nuance about origin versus current physical state, I mean, it feels like it would overload a beginner who just needs to know how to ask where the bathroom is.
I get that.
And immediately after this, it introduces the word some when discussing skills. The script says, I can speak some Chinese, defining it as a little or not completely. Doesn't adding qualifiers like some just create extra vocabulary for an already taxed brain?
Well, that reaction assumes the main obstacle to learning is just the sheer volume of words. But the actual obstacle for adult learners is often identity and, well, the crushing weight of binary thinking.
Binary thinking.
Yeah, think about how we usually frame skills. You either speak Chinese or you don't. You're either a programmer or you aren't.
Oh, right. There's no middle ground.
Exactly. And that binary creates immense cognitive friction. If a beginner is forced to state, "I speak Chinese," their brain knows they aren't fluent, so they feel like an imposter.
And imposter syndrome is stressful.
Really stressful. That imposter syndrome triggers the exact same freeze response we talked about earlier.
So the word some acts as a pressure valve.
Yes, it validates partial knowledge. Giving the learner the word some provides a socially acceptable way to claim a skill without adopting the heavy burden of being an expert. It teaches practical, functional communication over rigid fluency.
That makes total sense. And that mechanism applies to almost everything we try to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are listening to this right now and you are trying to, say, pick up financial modeling or trying to learn guitar, the ability to comfortably admit to yourself, I know some Python, or I can play some chords, it keeps you in the game.
It really does. It prevents you from abandoning the project just because you aren't at the finish line yet.
Right. It lowers the barrier to adopting the identity of a learner.
It shifts the internal benchmark. You are replacing an impossible standard of perfect knowledge with a highly attainable standard of incremental progress. You are giving yourself permission to exist in the messy middle of the journey.
The messy middle, I love that. And this acceptance of existing in the messy middle leads perfectly into the script's pivotal moment, moving from partial knowledge to the absolute limits of current knowledge.
Yes, this is a crucial pivot.
The script explicitly pauses its normal pacing to flag an idea for the listener. It announces, here is an important sentence. And the sentence it delivers is, my English is not very good yet.
Such a powerful phrase.
They even break it down phonetically. My English is not very good yet. Here's where it gets really interesting.
I can see where you're going with this.
Adding the word yet to the end of that sentence is like downloading a software patch for your brain's error detection system.
A software patch. That is a fantastic analogy.
Right, because look at the first half of the phrase. My English is not very good. That is a statement of current failure.
And if you stop there, failure registers in the brain as a fatal crash. The system halts.
Exactly. The system just halts. But the moment you append yet to the end of the thought, you instantly alter how the brain processes the limitation. It no longer registers as a fatal crash. It registers as a loading screen.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we're looking at the literal syntactical application of a growth mindset.
The growth mindset.
Yeah. Now, we all know the buzzword growth mindset. The psychological concept that your abilities are not fixed traits, but capacities that can be developed through neuroplasticity.
Right, the whole Carol Dweck concept.
Exactly. But what is so brilliant about this script is that it doesn't offer a motivational lecture about neuroplasticity. It builds the growth mindset directly into the grammar rule.
It hands the listener the exact linguistic tool required to combat their own inevitable frustration. The script even spells out the mechanism, stating, "It means your English is not very good now, but it can become better in the future."
And then it immediately pairs it with a proactive action. But I want to learn.
It is pairing the honest acknowledgement of a current limitation with a declaration of future intent.
Yes. When the learner inevitably stumbles over a complex sentence a week from now, they have been pre-programmed with the syntax to frame that failure as temporal.
Temporal, like it's just a matter of time.
Exactly. I don't understand this yet. That single word maintains the forward momentum that keeps the neural networks engaged rather than shutting them down in defeat.
So we have this incredible architecture being built. The script has disabled the threat response to create a safe zone. It has validated partial knowledge with the word some to avoid imposter syndrome. It has installed the Yet software patch to reframe failure.
It's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It really is. And now it moves into its final phase, which is synthesizing all of this to prove to the learner that the system is actually working.
This is where we see the mechanical payoff of all that psychological scaffolding.
Yeah.
The lesson pulls all the isolated pieces into a cohesive narrative paragraph.
Yeah, it introduces a few of Yami's personal preferences. I like coffee, I like music, I like watching movies, I like learning languages.
Simple, relatable statements.
And then it runs through a complete, uninterrupted introduction. Hello, my name is Yami. I'm from Thailand. I live in Thailand. I'm learning English. My English is not very good yet, but I want to learn. I like learning languages. I'm happy to be here.
It's a full story.
It is. It has a listener simply hear it first, then hear it again, and then repeat each sentence.
In a matter of minutes, the learner experiences the compound interest of their effort. They transition from simple, isolated survival words to processing a nuanced, multi-layered personal introduction.
And then the script actively tests them. It asks direct questions right into the silence. What is your name? Where are you from? Where do you live? What languages do you speak? Are you learning English?
Leaving intentional pauses.
Yes, the listener is prompted to generate the answers in those pauses.
That is the mechanism of active recall, which is vastly different from passive listening.
How so?
Well, when you force your brain to retrieve information from storage and generate an answer, you are physically altering your brain structure. The act of retrieval thickens the myelin sheath around that specific neural pathway.
The myelin sheath, so it's literally upgrading the hardware.
It literally insulates the connection, ensuring the signal travels faster and more reliably the next time you need that vocabulary.
But the script doesn't end on the active recall test. After a final review, the lesson concludes with a concentrated series of repeated positive affirmations. It says, I do not need to be perfect. I do not need to understand every word. I only need to keep learning. I will practice every day. I will get better. I can learn English. And it ends with one more repetition of, I can learn English.
It's very intentional.
So what does this all mean? Hold on. Ending a hard skills lesson with daily affirmations feels a bit, I don't know, much.
You think it's too much?
A little bit. I mean, does whispering I will get better to yourself actually help you remember how to conjugate a verb the next morning?
This raises an important question about what the actual victory condition of episode 1 really is. You are evaluating those affirmations strictly through the lens of acquiring data.
Right, like how many words did I learn?
Exactly. But the script concludes by shifting its focus from data acquisition to behavioral attrition. Because what is the number one reason people fail to master a complex new skill?
Well, they simply stop showing up. The friction gets too high, they feel inadequate, and they quit.
Exactly. Attrition is the ultimate enemy of learning. The most elegant grammar explanations in the world are completely useless if the student doesn't open episode 2.
That is a harsh reality.
It is. This script recognizes that deep learning is a cognitive endurance sport. The explicit instructions at the very end, statements like, the more you listen, the easier English will become, are there to set realistic expectations for the long haul.
It is actively managing the forgetting curve.
Yes. Those affirmations, things like, I only need to keep learning, I will practice every day, they might feel cheesy in a vacuum, but in the context of cognitive load and adult anxiety, they are the required mental fuel to sustain effort over time.
They are keeping the engine running.
The script is locking in the psychological gains of the last 15 minutes, so the learner has the actual behavioral stamina to return. It concludes by explicitly commanding, listen to this episode again tomorrow. It prioritizes the habit of learning over the immediate product of learning.
As we wrap up this deep dive, the blueprint we just uncovered in this Thai beginner script is universally applicable.
Universally.
If you want to successfully tackle any new, intimidating subject, you have to build this exact cognitive architecture. First, you have to establish safety, explicitly giving your brain permission to not understand everything immediately, which prevents that metabolic theft by the amygdala.
Second, you must embrace the nuance of partial knowledge. Allow yourself to know some of a topic, utilizing that pressure valve to prioritize practical progress over the crushing binary of being an expert or a failure.
Third, you utilize the incredible power of the word yet. You install that syntactical patch to ensure your brain processes current limitations as a loading screen rather than a fatal crash.
And finally, you recognize that learning is fundamentally an endurance sport. You actively build the mental resilience required to combat attrition and keep coming back to the material.
It is a profound piece of instructional design, brilliantly disguised as a basic greeting exercise.
It really is.
So, for you listening right now, the next time you feel completely overwhelmed by a massive new project at work, or you are staring blankly at a dense article you were trying to decode, I want you to remember Yami from Thailand.
Just remember yummy.
Remember that you do not need to understand every single word right away. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to keep the threat response down and keep learning.
Give your brain the biological space it needs to actually do its job.
And as we leave you today, I want to offer one final lingering thought to chew on. We often hear the theory of linguistic relativity, the idea that the language we speak fundamentally shapes how we perceive reality.
Right, a fascinating concept.
So if your very first foundational experience in a completely foreign language is learning how to confidently articulate the phrase, "I do not need to be perfect," how might that ultimately rewire your brain's entire global relationship with failure? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you next time.